So, and and it's a great way to just give people new opportunities that really don't even know that they're feasible or they're out there. So that was something for me. It started as a personal endeavor. A partner and I started with one house, and by the end of our first year, we had flipped 12 houses successfully. That was a great year and continued on for, a long time thereafter until last year. I was a little burnt out and my mother was sick, so I just decided to take a break. But I think it's a great way, one, to use your real estate expertise for yourselves and also for your clients as well. Um, does anyone have an idea how you win on a flip, first of all? I just want to get that out of the way. What makes a flip successful?
Numbers make it successful, but
100%.
yeah, but it just depends on what kind of flip it is. If you're gonna keep it for yourself, you can do a burst strategy. That's what I like to do. Or you can get it for a client, walk through the process, and then at the end you'll get the listing. If you also get the buyer, you can also rent it out. So there's multiple different ways of making money on a deal.
Definitely. So for me, I would particularly just buy and sell. I wasn't buying and holding. I was looking a lot just, for a moderate gain. Here in Florida, we really don't have a lot of windfalls. I would buy strictly from wholesalers. I don't go into the MLS battles, but that's because I'm just a little bit impatient, which probably takes away a little bit of profit, but it also allows you to be doing multiple flips at a time. But what I was going to say is you win on the buy. You have to buy good. The one bad flip that I had ever, which really like was a 2 year bad flip. I bought it with a violation and ended up in the city forever, but that's a bad buy. So anyone you talk to that will tell you where do you go wrong, it's when you buy too high. So you have to learn to do your numbers. You have to learn to do your calculations. Ronald can go through these with me as well. But does everyone know how to do ARV? Does everyone know what that is? Anyone not know? Let's say that. Does anyone not know what an ARV is?
After repair values?
Yeah, so how do you find an after repair value? Since most of us are in Florida, I'm going to talk about what we use here, since Ronald already knows what he's doing up there. Okay, so you're going to do comparables and you're going to look for, so let's say you see a property that's 123 Main Street and it's listed either on the MLS or the wholesale off market list and it's listed for 400,000, right? So you want to know what is this property's after repair value because before you can begin anything, you need to know what this is going to sell for, correct? So do we all know how to do comparables? Okay, so to
Yes.
do a comparable, you either go into the MLS. I personally use RPR. I use RPR for everything. I love it. So you're gonna go into RPR, you're gonna look for houses. I look within half a mile, but a lot of people use a mile because that's what appraisers use. I tend to be like, because a lot of times when I'm looking for myself or my clients, I'm not looking for the highest number, I'm looking for the most realistic number in whatever scenario. I learned that the hard way. So you're gonna go in and you're going to look for the same square footage house, same, like you're not going to obviously, comp a new build that was just, built last year with a, 1960s house, try to keep it around like the same age type of house, same square footage with similar upgrades. And if you want, I can teach you later how to like adjust for like waterfront or pools, which here in Florida, we have a lot of pools and a lot of waterfront, but you want to have a value based on that. So that's how you get your after repair value. So you're going to look at the properties and you're going to look at the after repair values. So does anyone have any questions about that? No? Okay. So once you have the after repair value, then you have a margin, right? So now you know the purchase of your house. So right now we're just going over what's a good flip, right? So what is a good flip? What's a not good flip? So I find a lot of people are like, oh, I have this property for my client, they want to flip it, and it's $400,000 and it can sell for $500,000. Do you think that's a good flip? Does anyone have any thoughts on that?
Not at
I'm trying
all.
to make this a little interactive here.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Not at all. Exactly. What number would you look for? If you bought the house in Jersey, which might be different for 400,000, what would you look to be able to sell it for?
Well, so I normally go based off the 70% of the ARV minus the repairs. So again, if the property is worth all fixed up $500,000, I will reduce it to 70%, which is, I'll tell you right now,
465,
three
right?
350,
Or 300?
350. That's the highest I would go, highest. Minus the
Minus.
repairs. So let's say the repairs are 75 grand. So my highest offer would be, 275.
So you're getting a great return on that.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, so that's great. Here in Florida, to find that is, like I would say, in this market, and from everyone that I've spoken to, it's nearly impossible. I do it a little bit different. That's really like the textbook way to do it. What Ronald's talking about. What I do is I know that my repairs are going to cost me anywhere between 70,000 to $100,000. That's probably going to be, what I'm looking at with roof, AC, whatever comes up. We're a little bit different down here. Jersey's like super big on permitting. I'm not saying do work without permits, but we just have a lot more leniency here on what we need to pull permits for and what we don't. So then what I'll do is I'll take the full value, right? So the full ARV value, same thing. I'll subtract my realtor fees, also, which is usually what, 5%. So immediately I go 95% of that. So let's pull out a calculator. So let's say it's $500,000 like we just talked about. So $500,000 times 95%. So that's 475 right there because that's what you're going to pay a realtor when you sell. Yourself included because you obviously want to make your commission and whoever brings the buyer. So minus, let's say I'm counting $80,000 on that flip, minus $10,000 for the closing costs. And now you got to talk about your holding costs. So what are the holding costs on a flip? Does anyone have any ideas?
Interest.
The interest on your hard money loan, if you're
What's the
using hard
holding
money.
cost?
Holding costs are what it costs you every single month to have the property. So you have to have usually, if you have, there's two ways to buy. So you could either buy with hard money or you can buy with cash. 90% of people aren't using cash. I have one client that buys cash. Generally, it's with a hard money loan. So let's say you have a $400,000 property. We're just gonna make this simple. They're financing, let's just say 80%. You can get, 90%, but let's just say 80%. So that's $320,000 that they're financing. Let's say you have a interest rate of 11%, right? So times 11% divided by 12. So that's going to be that's 29.33 a month. So you're paying almost $3,000 a month just for the loan itself. Plus you have to factor in like a builder's risk insurance policy, which has gotten, at least here in Florida, has gotten pricier. I don't know how it is in Jersey, but ours have gotten like almost as expensive as a regular policy at this point. And our insurance is just really high. And you also have to factor in like the prorated amount of the taxes. So let's say the taxes are $5,000 a year, right? So you're looking at, for another $416. So you're already at like, figure $4,000 a month just on your holding costs. So let's say you're going to have this house for 4 months, you have to count another $16,000. So where we just were, we said, I already messed up my calculator, 500,000 times 95%, which is 475 minus, we said $80,000 minus 10,000 minus 16,000. So right there, you're already at 369. So you haven't made any profit on that $500,000 house purchasing at 369. So let's say you purchase it at 350. Is that a good flip?
No.
No, because you have a $19,000 margin. If anything goes wrong, you're not in good shape. You always want to leave like a 10 to 15% just for whatever, because you never know, something can happen with the piping. You can get into some issue that just holds you up. So we always want to have a margin. So this is how I do it. Ronald's very, very numbers based. He goes in the opposite direction. I kind of do it like this. This is what's always worked for me, and it's like a kind of simple shortcut, and it's just a flipping formula. So for this, if my goal was to make in Florida, which $40,000 on a flip is really good, I would probably say the max on the purchase that I would go would be $330,000. Um, and maybe probably 320. So, that's just how I do my numbers. That's where I work with, but that's just the idea of how you're going to look at that for a client because they're going to come to you and they're going to say they want to flip a property and they're going to send you properties that make absolutely no sense all the time. And who was it that said that they had a client that's looking now?
I have a client, they are investors and they do a little mix of everything. So we were looking for something last year and didn't find anything where based off of what I was doing for the comps, it didn't seem to make sense. And it seems like I was pretty much aligned with what you just said. So we
Yeah,
didn't find any good opportunities. And I'm here in Central Florida, not Miami.
you're in
So
Central Florida.
yeah,
I mean, are you looking in the MLS or are you looking on off-market lists?
it was both.
Both.
Yeah.
So the wholesalers get a little like crazy down here, and I think Central Florida's the same. They just put the properties at really high value. Sometimes you have to wait them out, and you have to kind of see if you can knock them down a little bit. Sometimes going directly to, properties that you can kind of wholesale yourself, but it's just really time consuming. I just don't have the time for that. But that's really where the wins are. And if you can get those really good deals on the MLS, they're usually the best deals. But you're just going to be in a bidding war, and you got to make sure that you stay controlled and you don't go too high just trying to win. It kind of happens to everyone as far as I can see. Um, so the benefit to doing this for your clients is so if I to go to my client and I say, hey John, have you thought about flipping a house? This is a friend of mine, a friend that's a client, obviously, right? Because I'm not going to just go to a stranger and come up with it. Someone I've built a rapport with who has become my friend. Um, have you thought about investing in a property? And if you tell them, how much money do you think you need to invest in a property? Does anyone know?
It depends on the
So
purchase.
what's that?
It depends on the purchase price.
Well, yeah, I'm more talking like percent. So let's just say like we're generally gonna just talk about like I don't know about up there, but like here 400,000 is like a pretty normal like mid-range for a rehab property. So say you're buying a $400,000 property. So this is something that a lot of people don't know. So $400,000, let's say you can get 80%. So you would have to come up with 80%. So I did it backwards. So you'd have to come up with times. Why am I not able to add? It's too early. Say $80,000. So out of that $400,000 property, 80,000 bucks. And you'd have to pay point. So let's say now you're financing 320,000 times, let's say you're paying 3 points. So that's another 9,600 plus your closing costs. So roughly, let's say you come up with, let's just say hypothetically, $100,000. The other thing you can tell your clients is there's loans where they can get, with that 80% loan to value, they can get 100% on their rehab costs. And once they have experience, they can even only put down 10% and get 100% on rehab costs. And there's even loan programs now where you can factor in the loan payment into your loan. So they're not even having, they still have holding costs because they're still paying for it, but it's factored into the loan. So they're not coming out of pocket every single month. So that's very beneficial. So a lot of people, when I've approached them, they said, yeah, but I don't have $500,000 to start a flip. No, if you have $100,000, you can get going on a good flip here in Florida and you can get started. And after you do one, then you can come back and you can do another. And that's generally what happens. Once you have a client that you introduce to flipping houses and they do well on their first flip, they're going to come back and do a second. I don't know if Ronald's had this experience if he's flipped for helped clients flip, but my clients generally it becomes a second career if not takes over their career and becomes what they do. So you now, instead of selling one house, now maybe you've sold five houses to that one for that one client and been able to help them acquire the buy, get a commission or a JV. So now you've scaled your business and you've also helped change that person's life. So for me, that's always been a really rewarding experience because I love helping homeowners buy and sell. I mean, I've done that for 13 years and I'll never not love that, but helping see someone grow in a way that they change their life, in a great way. One of my clients, he's a friend of mine. He worked for the water department. He still works for them, but now he's flips nonstop. That's his, main money source, and he's changed his entire life, his entire, um, you know, monetary world for his children, his family, for everyone surrounding him. And he's helped a lot of other people himself now too. But what that does for you as an agent is gives you a whole nother level of business. So that's something that I really encourage, but they don't just always come to you. Sometimes it's the people in your circle that you can always open their eyes because it's lack of information. They just don't know. Obviously, it's not for everyone. You have to have nerves of steel. I'm sure Ronald can agree with me there. Um, it's not for everyone because not everything is going to go your way. Not everything is going to be easy. There's going to be a lot of challenges that you come across because, there's always issues with cities. Not always. Some things are straightforward and simple and minor, but you find repairs that you didn't expect, issues with plumbing, issues with electric, roof you kind of know ahead of time because you can look how old the roof is. But generally, like the plumbing can be hidden, the ACs you kind of know, but sometimes there's issues in ductwork. There's just things that pop up that you don't
Permits.
necessarily. No, go ahead.
Permits.
Permits, yeah, permits issues in Jersey, like from what I understand, you guys have it so hard because they're so strict. But down here, like there's certain cities that like really we have a habit down here, and I'm gonna say we collectively, not me, of course, but we don't do permits for anything interior. We just do permits for roof and windows and doors. But sometimes you'll have a city that just catches you. There's different cities like North Miami Beach that now have a whole department just um, they basically scrub the MLS looking for rehabs that weren't permitted. And there's a
Wow.
few cities that do that. Yeah, it's so you can't even post pictures because if you do, then you risk the chance of getting in that whole rabbit hole of doing after the fact permits.
That's funny because up here in Jersey, we don't have to pull permits for roofs or windows.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How funny. Just everything else.
Everything else, yeah.
Yeah.
Everything else. That's funny.
Yeah, down here, I think for us, it's really not that people don't do the work properly or don't want to. It's just the cities are really slow for everything. All of the cities here, there's not one that's free from that criticism. They're very slow.
Wow. Incredible. Up here, just to piggyback on what you said before about the soft costs and carrying costs. Up here, certain towns they do require you if the home is vacant to put up steel doors and like rails. So that's one of my
Oh,
carrying
wow.
costs as well. So if the city knows that the house is vacant, you literally have to pay a company to come out and put the steel doors and on all the first floor windows and doors. And also, I would
Oh,
consider,
wow.
yeah, in some cities, I would also consider, your security system. You got Wi-Fi, you have cameras that you also have to install for security purposes. You're gonna have a lot of material in these places. Some of these places aren't the best neighborhoods, so that's also some of my carrying costs as well. So security, cameras and Wi-Fi and the doors and the window guards as well.
What does that come up to per month for you if you break it down?
Uh Close to $300 a month.
See, so that adds up if you're in it for 6 months. That's
Yeah, that's a couple
yeah.
thousand dollars. Yeah.
We're a little as typical Florida, we're a little nonchalant down here, and there's always that group of thieves that just breaks into the houses right when you finish it and you put in your appliances and they steal everything. It's the
My
worst.
God.
There was a string last year, and these guys know in Miami Gardens and Central Miramar where they would just wait until you posted it on the MLS, and like right then everything would be missing. It was horrible.
Um, so funny story. I got broken into once. I did an open house after it was all done. I did my own open house for my own property, and I had maybe 10 people show up, and I noticed that after the open house and after the break-in, I realized that one of the guys that came to my open house was scouting the place out and actually robbed all my appliances for one of my homes. So it happens. It happens. That's the ugly side of real
Yeah.
estate and flipping.
Yeah, there really are people that just they get real estate agents just to let them in, just to leave a window open so they can come back later and break in.
Right,
It's a bad
right.
part. So
That's why it's
actually having
important
those
to,
cameras is a good thing.
yeah, making sure that everyone signs in as well. It's important.
Yeah. Yeah,
Hi guys, I have
it's
a question. Is this primarily Florida that you guys are talking about?
Ronald's in Jersey, so we're talking so far
Oh,
Florida and Jersey.
oh, thank you, Ronald, for that. My client was worried about a break-in and I thought he was crazy. I'm glad you said that because I thought all of that was behind us in the 90s. But
What part of Jersey or up north?
he has a house in Rahway that's going to be vacant for a little while in between tenants, and he was so worried about someone breaking in.
Oh yeah, no. It costs you a couple $100 a month, but you get peace of mind. I would definitely make sure it gets protected. And some rough areas out here in Jersey, there's guard dogs that we have to hire as well. There's a company that puts dogs inside the homes to protect them. So that's another, that's going to the extent, you know what I mean? But I would
Oh,
definitely encourage him to secure the property.
got it. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, another thing is, if you have your workmen and they leave their tools are very expensive and the tools get stolen also. So it's important, if you're going to be leaving tools, you have extra locks, extra security, or you just have them take their tools every day
Yeah.
because eventually every finger points to you when you're the owner. And there's even people who will steal like the copper piping, just as a side note.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll strip all the copper out of your house. It all happens.
Yeah, I know. I try to encourage them to get the plexi, but and switch everything out, but still, you just never know.
Yeah. Does anyone I'm keeping this a little bit broad. When we started, it was mostly, beside Ronald, it was mostly people just starting fresh with flipping. Does anyone have any questions? Did I not touch on anything? Do we want to do like some practice, like math? Where do you guys want to take this? Because we're a pretty small group, so I'd like to open the floor to any suggestions.
I think some practice math would do good.
Okay, so we'll do like a sample.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
okay, does everyone have something they can write down with so they can, or a calculator? It's kind of
Yes.
Sherry,
easy. Yep.
Sherry, before we do the math, because I might have to leave in a few,
Okay.
when you were speaking, you mentioned for the costs, I think you said something about the builder's insurance as a
Yes.
cost.
So it's just an insurance if you're not living in the property. So it's not like you're getting like a citizen's policy or, a regular policy with like everything hazard wind. It's meant for when you're rehabbing and not living in the property. It used to be pretty cheap, but it's gotten way more expensive over the years.
But
So
the contractor that's doing the work, the GC that's doing the work, wouldn't they have
d-
insurance already? Or is this a
down
different type of
here,
coverage?
down here, no, this is the lender requiring, at least every lender I have requires a builder's risk policy at the least. And that's on the house. It's different than what the lender, I mean, what the contractor carries. I don't know if it's different in other states, but here we have to carry it as the owner.
Yeah,
Do you find that up?
the owner
Yeah.
normally has a separate policy, and it's actually more costly because it's vacant. So there's a number of things that can happen to the property while it's vacant. No one's securing it day in and day out. So it's normally a little bit more expensive. But the contractors have to have their own insurance just in case someone gets hurt, or if they cause any more damage to the property. It can go either way on the contractor or on the insurance policy.
Okay, got it. I thought the insurance was for the contractors versus the actual property itself, but this, of course, makes more sense.
And down here anyway, again, I'm just trying to separate because I know every state is different. We generally we might have a GC if we're pulling permits to do certain work, but really we have handymen doing the majority of the work. They're not just always licensed GCs for a lot of the work that we do in a rehab, whether, it's painting or light work, kitchen installation, like those things really aren't GCs. So you have a lot of workmen flooring, it's really basic. So GCs aren't doing everything either. So you always want to keep that in mind.
In the past, have you typically hired a GC who had a handyman on staff, or did you hire two different people? Like when it came time to, I guess, estimate the total cost of the project, I thought you would have had to work with a GC to get those numbers prior to you making the purchase. So how do you navigate that with regards to the cost for the project itself? And
So
who?
I'm pretty good. I mean, at this point, I've done so many that I can pretty much estimate the cost myself. I don't really take a GC before purchasing. I I can a lot of times we purchase even sight unseen, but I can pretty much know just by the house what my range will be to do the rehabs. Um, whether it's roof, whether it's AC, whether, the electric box is going to need to be updated. I can do that myself. I know like a kitchen is a kitchen. It depends. I mean, obviously luxury is totally different. I would have a GC in there 100%, but on the average, 400,000 to, $600,000 flip, I do it myself and I take the guy that does most of the work. If it is anything that requires permitting, anything that has violations or anything, I always have a GC on hand as well.
Okay, thanks.
A lot of if you're doing like a minor cosmetic rehab, it's not really, what you would need GC for. If you're doing floors, for instance, and painting, if it's just cosmetic on the basic level, you're not going to have a GC for that. If it's starts to include like electric plumbing, if it's roof, you need a roofer to go in there. It's not really a GC. If it's, AC's an AC guy, it's a little different. Like there's ways to, skirt around as well and stay within having a legal property. So you don't need to, for instance, here, you don't need a GC to pull like your AC permit. You need an AC contractor. For a roof, you need a roof contractor.
So it's best to just have licensed professionals for each of those versus a
And
GC to, I guess,
and
tell you
it's
or
it's a
refer you to someone else.
I mean, it depends. At the beginning, you might want to have a GC. It's just obviously it changes your cost. Um, and I think the more you make relationships, I mean, Ronald can probably say the relationships you have with the crew that you work with is probably the most important part of this because you can start with great numbers and have a horrible crew and everything goes downhill. So, I think it's the relationships that you build with the people that are working with you that are really important. So at the beginning, I would say yes, you want to start with someone as knowledgeable as you can. And from there, you just make relationships. If you're going again, like if I'm going into a big project, GC 100%. If I'm doing something that's just a light rehab, probably no GC because we're just not, they're not really needed. It's like, if you're redoing minor things in your own house, are you going to hire a GC or are you going to hire, that's how I look at it. If I'm putting vinyl flooring, I don't need a GC for that.
Do you recommend having the property inspected, getting an inspector to go and determine exactly whether or not you need to get those licensed professionals for certain things?
Ideally, I mean, you always it would be like wonderful to have an inspection. We don't get that opportunity here. They go so quickly, the good properties, that a lot of times you're buying sight unseen or you're in and out. Like you take like a contractor or whoever you can find that day and just run in and look at it and you buy and you kind of, and again, that's why it takes nerves, like it takes some nerves of steel to do this because you're kind of taking a leap of faith. I don't know how it is in other parts of Florida or other states, but South Florida, it's really competitive and it's a really um, quick turnaround on the good properties. Like you blink your eye and they're gone.
Hiring an
So
inspector would just be another cost
yeah,
that's not cheap. An inspector is going to cost you up here at least for two families. They're going to cost you about $700-800. Where a contractor to go in there, or if you have enough experience, or you can walk in there where you're an investor, where he's like, all right, we got to do this, that, and third. But most investors already know what to do, and they'll just need a quote. But hiring an inspector is just going to be more time consuming. They're probably going to scare the investor even more. And
yeah.
it's just going to be more costly, to be honest.
Remember, you're buying horrible properties. Like horrible's already horrible, and you're pretty much planning anyway to fix almost everything in the house. So, what's the inspector going to tell you that, the roof, you kind of know by the age of the roof needs to be replaced. You kind of know that you can look at the age of the ACs. When you're walking through it, you can look at the plumbing, you can look at the electric box. There's a lot that you can just eyeball, but I kind of plan on the worst. I definitely don't plan on the best because I'd rather be surprised in a good way than stressed out in a bad way. So I start out with like the worst assumption that I'm gonna have to do everything in the house.
So I believe you and I have a lot of experience, but let's think about newer people, right? Let's think about those people that you tell them about the business, and I can get your first flip. Most of these people would have a hard time just wrapping their mind around, oh my God, I'm gonna buy this piece of crap. Like, how much work does this really entail? So I kind of get that question where you would ask if hiring an inspector would be ideal, but I think walking in there with a contractor would be
100%.
best. No, forget about the inspector. Just get a contractor in there to price it out for you. Get like at least three quotes from three contractors. That'll be ideal.
And just remember, like a lot of times, for one, you're not 90% chance going to get 95% chance going to get an inspection period. You're going to purchase with zero inspection days, at least down here, like 100%. That's if it's a cash deal, hard money, they're really not trying to give inspection periods. If it's a good property, it's competitive. They're wholesalers. They're not trying to be um they're not trying to leave any option open. So you're probably not going to have an inspection period. So when you do that walkthrough, you want to take that contractor with you or multiple contractors with you at that time, because sometimes you only get one shot walking through the property.
Yeah. My piece of advice, the way I built up my team, roofers, people that do siding for me, plumbers, electricians. I used to go and walk all these properties, where there's a rental, and in my market there's a lot of rentals. I live in Northeast, and there's a lot of residential apartments available, and there's always people working in these apartments. There's always roofers, and what you want to do is you want to build relationships with these people that are actually doing the work versus trying to find someone that knows somebody that knows somebody. So my piece of advice would be, go out there to the marketplace, look at apartments that are in the works, stop by, check them out. If you have access to them, build relationships with them and get their contact information. And then when you do have a deal, you tell your investor, hey, listen, I'm gonna bring a roofer, a plumber, and an electrician to walk the property with us. That way you're providing more value, not just, hey, listen, this is the deal, get your own people to do the work, bring more value to your clients.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Do you guys do JV?
No.
No.
I personally I like to be in control of my own deals. I normally use my own cash with hard money, but I rarely like to be in control. I mean, I really don't like to be in control. I like to run my own show, and I like to be in control. So I don't do any JVs.
When you say JV, do you mean describe what you mean by that?
Joint venture,
Like,
like, to go
No,
partner with
I
some.
know it's a joint venture, but I'm just trying to see what she means because there's
yeah, yeah, that pretty much. If I, let's say if I see a deal and I just want to go, 50-50, or
as
is that
a
something you guys do?
oh, okay, so I do that. I do that a lot. I'll be 50%. I don't love to be the one that's looking over the workmen. I hate it. I feel like I get run over a lot. I'm pretty soft-spoken. I mean, I'm sure Ronald walks in, he's got that guy energy and everyone pays attention. When I walk in, it's like sometimes they push me aside. So I love to do partnerships with someone who knows a lot about work. I've learned a lot along the way, but at the beginning, I didn't know anything. Like I barely know how to hammer a nail. So I still don't know how to do anything, but at least I can see when there's like things are wrong. Now it's been years. I can walk in and be like, okay, we're gonna have to do this, this, this. But so I started doing, partnerships with people and I still, anytime I've done it on my own, for me, it's been a nightmare. So 100%, I like to give over some of that control. I'm the opposite as of Ronald, but I understand what he's saying as well. one, you make more money when you have control on your own, and two, you don't have like the tug of war that can sometimes happen with other people.
Yeah. What would be like an ideal deal? Like in a sense of like the numbers.
An ideal deal is finding a property with a pool in Central Miramar or Miami Gardens that's like 380 that I know I can sell for 640 that I don't have to do a roof. Like that's a great deal because it's solid. Like there's the other thing, like there's areas. It's not just the deal on the ARV. What I've learned along the way is also looking at how many properties are for sale, how long they're staying on the market. Every area isn't the same, so area becomes really important. I mean, I've looked at ARVs and I've been burnt, not burnt to like bad properties, but I've also not had the turnaround time that I got used to in the areas that I had been working. Like I was really heavy in Miami Gardens down here in Central Miramar, even like South Broward, and then to venture, like, not to knock Pompano, but we did a flip in Pompano that just couldn't move. So I learned that now not only do I look at like the ARV, because the ARV kind of lies to you sometimes. If you got to drive the area too, by the way, like be really, when you look at like comps, not every block is the same. So if you're not familiar with, like, I would suggest starting, especially working in areas that you're familiar with, that you've sold properties, that you really know the neighborhood. I think that makes a big difference as well at the beginning. Like, as I'm sure like Ronald ventures out because he's done, 20 flips and he's kind of a little more confident. But at the beginning, work areas that you know.
Okay.
Do you have an answer to that, Ronald? You might have a different viewpoint.
Don't you would want to focus in the area where you live in or you're familiar with, but open up, see what else is out there because there's a lot of markets out there. There's a lot. So don't just focus on one. I mean, focus primarily on one, but branch out, learn other markets as you are in this business.
I'm still a little chicken. I
Okay.
still stick to where I'm close to and where I'm comfortable. So,
Is there like a mathematic like a equation that you guys do when it comes to a flip or a
yeah,
deal
we
that's
did.
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, we were doing that at the beginning. Maybe we should do a practice. We could do like one my way and one Ronald's way.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
Yeah. Okay. So do you want to start? Ronald, you do the first
Yeah,
and then
I
I'll.
can
so
also see how you guys like find properties. Like, what do you guys do? Like, can we see your property searching process?
so
I
Like,
mean,
how
for
do you know what property to go with? Like in the beginning searching process.
okay, let's answer. I'll answer the first question and then I'll answer the second one. So let's start off where an area that I like to buy in, which is Newark, New Jersey. Um, Newark, New Jersey. Let's say a four family. I love four families. Let's say there's one that just sold for $930,000, right? ARV. I mean, that's the top, you know, the most expensive four family that I've seen sold in this area. So let's say you find a property that needs work. So $930,000, 70% of that is 651 minus the repair. So let's say you find a deal and it needs, let's say, $50,000 in work. Let's say they all need brand new bathrooms. Everything else is done. They need $50,000 in bathrooms, all four bathrooms, right? So the max I would probably pay is for this one here is $600,000. $600,000, you put the work in, and now you can turn around and sell it. But you got to also consider carrying costs. It might take you 3 months to get all of this done. Just to get the tenants out, cash for keys, the interest you're going to be paying on the deal for the 3-4 months, and also a lot of people don't think about the closing costs for the seller. You have commissions, you have transfer of title, you have taxes you have to pay. So let's say that you're up another $50,000. And again, that's a sweet deal. If you got it for 600, you put 50 grand into it, and then you spend another $50,000 again, I know there's points and everything we got to pay and interest. So let's say we owe 7.25 for that deal. I think this is again, I'm keeping numbers very low and very simple, but if you're all in it for 7.25 and after repair value is 930, we're talking about $205,000 in profit. That's a sweet deal. But that's the way I would do it. But you know, those are numbers. I try to keep it very simple, but there's a lot more numbers that go into it, like the interest rate, the insurance, all that stuff. You have to factor in. I didn't factor all this in, but you would add those numbers into the expenses and then deduct all the expenses, your repairs, and then you subtract it from the ARV, and that would be your net profit.
So just as a rule of thumb,
Mm-hmm.
if it's less, just to make it like very simple, and then you want to work it out, but just for like a quick eyeball, it used to be like 150, 160, but right now if it's less than like 190, 200, you're gonna have almost a negative flip. Like to have a small profit, you need at least $200,000 window between the two. But obviously you want more. Down here, super hard. But who works in Leo's office? Anyone? North Miami?
I do.
Yeah, I thought so. Okay, yeah, I recognize you. Yeah, Leo's great at finding like good deals. Like he's just really like connected in that the wholesale world. But if you're just buying off of the wholesale market, like literally, let's say the ARV on the you see it selling for 400, make sure the ARV is at least 600 and there's nothing major on the house. And then you can do the math from there. But before you even give it a double look, just make sure you have that window.
Okay.
And remember, if it's for yourself, you're also saving on like the commission that you're making is profit also. So it's a little different than if it's someone else or yourself. You just have a little more padding because if something goes wrong, you have that 3% that you're already factoring in or 2.5 for yourself.
And what was the other question about off
Where
market
where
deals?
where do you look? How do you find your properties?
So I use a dialer. I normally like I cold call most of the day. I have these on most of the day. Um
And this, guys, just to jump in, this is why he's getting, this is the key to making like the $200,000 profits because he's finding his own deals. So if you're going to take it seriously, it's the way to go, not to cut you off.
yeah. So I call and I use another source. I use what a lot of people don't use, and you mentioned it earlier, is the RPR. A lot of agents don't really know what it is, but it's a good source for finding deals. RPR is the Realtor Raptor report, which there's a lot of good information on there. It normally has landlords' phone numbers as well. Um, but I also do the old school way. I go on Craigslist. There's still deals on Craigslist, believe it or not. Craigslist, Facebook. Um, those are my three sources. Sometimes I go to the courthouse and I pick up a document where people are getting evicted. Again, and those people that are getting evicted, you see the debt that they have. And if it's an owner, I normally don't target LLCs because they're kind of hard to get a hold of. But there's a number of ways of figuring out, finding off-market deals. It's just figuring out which one is it that works best for you. I like to do, different types. I'll hit the phones I try to hit the phones every single day. Um, but sometimes when I'm in the area by the courthouse, I'll stop by and pick up, the batch of, tenants that are getting evicted, and I'll try to skip trace those landlords and get that information. So those are my sources of looking for deals off market.
What do you use to make your cold calls? PropStream?
No, Mojo.
Mojo. So he uses guys Mojo Dialer. There's different sources, RedX, Mojo Dialer. A lot of people use PropStream, so he's dialing and he's calling, he's putting in the work and he's getting really good deals. Me, I'm a little lazier. I use the wholesale off-market list. I don't get the same great deals, but I get a little profit and I'm usually pretty happy. So there's just tons of off-market lists that come. Like once you start getting into the market, you're just going to get more lists than you can even want, and a lot of them are duplicates. But then as they get your name as someone who's rehabbing properties, different wholesalers will just send to you directly. So you start to have properties, you just really have to scour them. And rule of thumb, don't generally believe them. Do your research yourself. Don't just look at the ARVs they put, like, oh, this property's 400,000 and the ARV is 750, and you're like, great, great deal. No, like always do the work and the research yourself if you use any of those wholesale lists. Any other questions?
Where do you guys get the leads to use in like FedEx and Mojo Dollars? Like, where are you guys getting those numbers? Are we using like those options that Ronald was talking about?
So they're the actual they give you the numbers. So like for instance, at my office in Plantation, for anyone who wants it, I have Mojo Dialer available. A lot of times your offices will have them, or you just buy it yourself. Um, you know, I've I always buy PropStream and then don't cold call and then I don't have it anymore. But PropStream is what, like $100 a month. So, you can, it's not a huge investment.
It's really,
And this will provide the leads?
Yeah,
yeah,
they provide
it's
you the phone numbers.
Okay.
yeah, it's very
Oh,
simple.
cool. Okay.
I'm on Android right now. This is the area you want. You circle it. You click two buttons, and it finds all the information for you. It gives you the address, the owner's name, email, everything, and you just start calling. You just start calling. That's it. Very simple. They make it very simple for you for us now.
I have
Yeah,
one more
it's
question. I'm so sorry, everybody.
no, take your time. That's what we're here for. And we got lucky and have Ronald on the call
Okay.
too. So
Yeah,
Thank you,
it's all
Ronald.
no problem. It's only like 100. I think I pay like $110 a month for the Mojo Dialer for the
Mhm.
service, but then you also have to pay for the skip tracer, which is like another 50. The triple dialer, which is like another, I think, $50. Again, but it's well worth it. It's well worth it. It's the best lead source. That I think the most affordable one, to be honest. Although it's a couple $100 a month, but it's going to get you a ton of leads. It's going to get you in contact with a lot of homeowners.
Ronald, can you give us an example of while you're dialing, someone picks up, what do you say? Like
That's
act
a good question.
act it out for me.
Like so, I normally try to target people that are losing their home, and they're in pre-foreclosure. So, I have a script. I tell them, hey, listen, I'm not sure if you got my letter because I do send out mailers as well. I do also mailers, which I have my kids do. I normally order 1,000 a month, 1,000 envelopes, and I order 1,000 cards, and I print them out. I print out the letters. So before I call, I would normally send out the letters. And I have everything here. I have the post stamps. I do everything by hand. My sons do it for me, and then I send out the letters, and then when I give it a week, they should have the letters in their mailbox, and I give them a call, and I tell them, hey, listen, this is Ron Roman. I'm not sure if you received my letter just yet, but I'm reaching out to you because I see that you're going through some financial struggles with your property, and I was hoping to answer some of your questions. I'm pretty sure you have. And then, most of the time they have an attorney, but and again up here they hire attorneys to help them do the modification, which is try to save their home. And it's a real waste. And then I just build a rapport with them after that. They're like, yeah, I spent thousands of dollars on the attorney. I'm like, well, listen, most of the stuff you can do yourself. And then again, I start building that rapport. I come off of service, and I tell them, hey, listen, if anything doesn't work out with the attorney, I'm more than happy to put another set of eyes on the paperwork and help you with the paperwork. And if things don't work out, I can help you sell it, or if you end up keeping it, if you have a vacant apartment, I can help you rent it out. So I'm just very resourceful. So I don't want to just help them sell the house. I want to help them keep the house. If they keep the house, great. Maybe they have a vacant apartment. Maybe they need some work. I can send them a contract to give them a quote. So I'm not just looking to sell their home. I want to provide a service that most other agents don't do.
Awesome. That's really good. You covered so many bases in one thing.
Yeah, I
So
try.
many different angles you could take with the foreclosure. So But I see that you're so hands-on, which I think a lot of people miss. You can't just pick up the phone and start dialing. You really have to pour into it, and you treat it like a business with your kids doing the mailers and sending things out ahead of time, and that really builds rapport from what I see.
Yeah, yeah, it certainly does. Again, I literally have I order 1,000 mailers, like cards a month. And listen, I can source this out, send out mailers, but I get my kids involved and I teach them my own business. But I send out the mailers and then I make that phone call. It's a warm phone call because they already have my business card probably in their mail. They've probably seen it, you know. And again, there's just putting it, and again, everything has to align. Like your business card, every time you call, your face should show up. They look at your website that that lifestyle does provide, the lifestyle website that they give to you, everything should match up so everything can align and they build that report like, wow, this guy has a website, he has a business card, he sent me a letter, now he's calling me. So again, it's my business. It's all I've been doing for over a decade. So
Awesome. Great points. Thank you.
yeah, yeah.
Hey guys, question, Manny here. I don't know if you guys covered this or not, but what are you guys doing as far as funding these deals? Hard money,
Hard
um,
money. I
yeah.
I used to work with a small hard money lender. I still work with him. He's really quick. He can close in 5 days if I need it. He's wonderful. He would work with me on a 90/10, but he wouldn't do any rehab. So now I've been trying to finding a lot of 100% rehab. So like 90/10 with 100% rehab, 85 um, you know, 85/15 with 100% rehab. And just recently for a client, I found a new company that will even wrap in the payments, which is something that I actually am considering because sometimes those carrying costs can get heavy.
Well, good terms.
I mean, hard money is hard money. I don't know when it's ever good terms. Like, are you going to pay, 10, 11, or 12%? Are you going to pay, you know, 2.5 points or 3.5? But it's all generally not good terms, but it
Well,
just
I
makes the deal
mean,
doable.
compared to the rest.
It,
All right, cool.
remember, hard money, guys, just so you know, remember it's interest only. So you're paying interest, you're not paying principal, and they're just meant to be short-term loans. You want to get in and out of them as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Sherry.
Is everyone good? Big thanks to Ronald for chiming in. That's great input.
Yes, great information.
Really great. I'm glad to hear because I haven't flipped in so many years. Everything has changed. So I'm hearing so many different opportunities. I mean, Ronald being in Jersey, you can understand just finding the properties alone can be so challenging. And then the funding, like the gentleman mentioned about hard money. I have a client that I guess she used Home Tap to tap into her own home equity to pull some money out so she could work on something she got out of the land bank in Newark. But like you have to live in Newark in order to be eligible for that land bank and things like that. But finding the properties wholesale is probably the best way to go. And it's good to see that someone's successful, Ronald. That's encouraging.
Thank you. Thank you.
I just put my number in the chat if anyone is working on anything and has any questions and I can help you. I'm always happy to. I'm a lot better by text than phone calls and
Okay,
not
great.
WhatsApp.
Thank
I
you.
might take a whole day with WhatsApp.
Do
All
you
right, are
guys
we
ever
good?
like market
Oh,
this to like clients? Like, hey guys, I help, people in this situation, or I can help you buy a lower cost home or wholesaling, or this is just something that you guys would just buy and flip.
no, 100%. And I'm about to work with multiple clients again, but there was a year where, I mean, and that year I did 25 million, and I would say 20 million was clients, myself or clients flipping. Um, Sometimes that's what I focus on mostly. I market it, I work towards that. I help a lot of people and they tend to come back and then they're doing two properties at a time. So it's a great way to scale your business.
So I could just say like, hey, I'm looking for somebody that's in like a distressed property. And once I find someone who's going through a situation, I could kind of like market that way, help them sell their home. How do I make sure I get my commission? How do I make sure I get paid?
I mean, always just a commission agreement. Anything that you do where you want to get paid, just make sure you have a commission agreement in place with them.
So we just like kind of just set the price, like, hey, we just need 3% of the sale price.
So if you're, yeah, that's just basically a listing, right? I I had a call that I
Okay,
had to
so it would
take,
be
so I missed
considered
it.
like the same thing.
Yeah, it's the same
Okay,
process. From what I missed a bit of what you said there. I had to answer that, but yeah, anytime you're doing any type of sale, you always want a listing agreement, and you just said, you can take a flat fee, but I mean, always, 2.5, 3% for you, and then the same if you're selling it, 2.5 or 3% for the other person. You try to factor
okay,
it in. Obviously, you
thank
can't,
you.
with the new rules, watch how you use verbiage with that, but generally factor that in.
Okay, thank you so much.
Definitely. But yeah, feel free, definitely take my number down. If anything comes up, just send me a text and I'll do my very best to help you.
Awesome, will do.
Thank you, Sherry.
All right, take care, everyone.
I'm
Have a good
sure,
day.
bye.
Bye.
Thank you.